Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is Mike Huskin and you are on Destination Fishzone. If this is your first time watching us, make sure you go to the subscribe button, press that, turn that bell on. That'll give you an opportunity. As soon as we post up new videos, you'll be able to access them. Yes, this is a new channel, so we are in the process of getting a lot of content online. There are a couple videos on there already. Feel free to go back, take a look at that as well. So what I'd like to do is just introduce myself a little bit about the channel and give you a little background. Again, my name is Mike Huskin, and I've been in South Florida almost all my life. Grew up down there in Miramar area many years ago, developed a passion for fishing, just fishing off the banks and the great fishing down there over the years. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time, start a channel, finally just pulled the plug and did it, man. Just did it. I felt like that it was just time just to go ahead and start it. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve involved. But what we want to do is we want to focus on this concept of fish zone. You know, we've all been there where everything works and everything is right and the fish bite is red hot. That's kind of what we're going to be focusing on here in this channel. So we're going to be going over all kinds of ideas on how to make us a better angler and get us in that zone. So today I want to just talk to you about some of the things that make me successful, or I've had success at fishing off the bank. I mean, let's face it, for those of you who have boats, that's awesome. I mean, in my lifetime, I've not been able to have a boat consistently, and I've had to fish quite a bit from the shorelines. So I've had to learn the ins and outs on how to do it effectively. Now today what I want to share with you is primarily in regards to fishing piers, fishing docks, and fishing jetties. So I've brought along a couple things to show you. I want to pass along to you. It'll probably help you out in your next time on the water, especially if you're going into these areas. So check it out. At first, what I want to show you this is that, first of all, your fishing trip starts the night before, and you got to get that in your mind. I mean, for years, just showing up, going fishing, it's like hit and miss, right? So as you go a little bit further along, you begin to realize that there's patterns that show. So the first thing you want to really do is you want to research where you're going to go. You want to find structure. You want to find something that's going to hold the fish. So number one, I would recommend that you check the tides and you check the conditions. So that's kind of like the first thing you need to do if you're fishing saltwater, which is what we're talking about here. Saltwater fishing, you're going to notice that a lot of the bite is based on the tides. It's just the way it works. I mean, you're going to find that those magical moments are usually on a good tide. Now that can be the beginning of the incoming tide or the outgoing tide, and you're just going to have to experiment in your area to see where the fish are at and what is the best bite. You know, I've seen it sometimes where it's at the end of the tides, but nonetheless, make sure you check your tides. You can find a lot of apps online, and you can get that information for your area. Now we want to talk about location, location, location. So when you're thinking about going fishing, make sure that you find a place that you feel is going to be a productive place. I have found that the jetties are awesome for fishing. I mean, I have caught so many fish off the jetties. The only drawback of jetty fishing is there's a lot of people on the jetty, but they do catch a lot of fish, and I've caught a lot of fish as well. Same thing with piers. You know, growing up down in South Florida, my buddies and I used to go to the piers all the time, and we always were successful, especially with bluefish and Spanish mackerel, that kind of stuff. All day long, we would just hit it hard. Now, also, you want to check, some of your parks have docks and small piers that they have. I know at Indian Riverside Park here, they have a location that you can bring your tackle out on the pier. And it's a great place to fish. So these places are going to be productive, especially in the mornings and at night, or right before dark. These places are going to produce. If you find a place that is shallow, you're going to make sure that you fish those either early in the morning or late in the evening, because a lot of those fish are coming through, and as it gets hotter and the sun gets brighter, they are just going to go off into deeper water until the evening time. So those bites are going to be based upon the tides and also the time of day. So keep that in mind too. Now, what you also want to do, you want to have a plan for your tides. You want to make sure that you get a good location. I do recommend the jetties, because I have been very successful. At Jupiter Inlet, the jetty right there, very great fishing. I mean, I've caught upwards to 20 snook in a daytime there, primarily in the morning on an outgoing tide. But these places really do produce. The problem is you've got to get there early. And I say that again, early, because everyone knows that these places are going to produce fish. So they're going to be out there and they're going to take the real estate up. And you're going to find these guys, and listen, I've been out there, and all love to them, but the guys who come out with the 4 poles and they kind of stack them, you know, where they're every 10 feet across the jetty, and it just takes up a lot of real estate, right? So it's kind of hard to fish when you have 5 poles out and you're trying to get out there and get your spot. But what I have found is that if you'll get there early, you can beat these guys. And a lot of times it's just a matter of getting out on the rocks and making sure you're there early so that you can make sure you position yourself for the bite. Now, with that being said, you need to make sure that you're ready to be out there. I mean, one thing I've noticed in saltwater fishing is that there's these magical moments that happen, and they don't happen all the time, but when they do, you need to be prepared for those minutes. I mean, those things, this bite could only be going for 10 minutes or half an hour, and you need to make sure you're ready for that bite. Now, one of the things I want to share with you, yes, the tides, yes, location, and making sure you get there early and setting up. But here's another thing you need to think about. That when you prepare to bring your stuff out, you need to make it as easy as possible for you so that you don't get exhausted. Let me show you what I use. And the only drawback to this, what I'm getting ready to show you, is that one, I wish that I would have bought the wider wheels. Now you ask me why the wider wheels, because here's the thing. What I'm getting ready to show you is my cart, my fishing cart. Very portable. You can throw it in the back of your car. The problem is that it doesn't go through sand. So you pull up to the jetties, as long as there's a paved or pathway that you can track along, you're good as gold. The moment that you try to take that cart out on the beach because you're trying to catch bait with a casting net, it's not going to work. It's been one of my biggest regrets. So when you are looking for these carts, make sure that you find one that has larger wheels. Let me kind of show you what I have here. All right, this is my fishing cart. Nothing special, guys. Hey, you've been there. I mean, you're on a budget just like me. And, you know, sometimes you just can't afford to buy the $600 fishing cart that is all set up and ready to go. Now, this thing right here, I just simply added some pole holders. Very simple. And you can also tell that there's a place for your knife. There's a place for some lures. There's just a couple different things that I utilize on this cart. And then I also have, which I don't have it here, I also have a coffee cup holder. Most definitely you need that. Now you'll notice with me that on this cart, I'm going to show you my aerator bait well that I've made, and also we're going to talk a little bit about how to carry your bait. Now, here's what I want you to get from this. You're going to need to invest in catching bait. It's as simple as that. Now, if you're one of those guys that use lures and you're successful at it, then, you know, that's awesome. Stay with it, because, you know, there's a lot of people that catch fish with lures. But my experience has been that my hookup ratio using live bait compared to lures is just drastically more. That's just what it comes down to. So when you are looking at going off of a pier, off of a dock, bring the tackle box. Make sure that you have enough leader material. I like to use 3 different leader material. I like to go very light, medium, and a little bit heavy. So what I do is I do a 20-pound fluorocarbon, and then I do a 30-pound and a 50-pound. When I get up to like 30 and 50 pound, I'm just using a blend. Basically, it's not fluorocarbon, it's not mono, it's this blend that they have in between. So that's been real successful for me. Now make sure that you're using the very small swivels, and spend the extra money, get that tiny swivel, because you're going to want to tie that leader to either your braid or mono. I'm personally using braid. Some people like mono better, but make sure you prepare a leader that is at least long enough to give you a little bit of a shock pad, so that when these fish bite, that they're not going to just pull the hook every time. So when you're looking at it, make sure you pull up at least a 2-foot piece of leader material. Sometimes I go, when I'm on the jetties and there's a lot of rocks, I'll go 4 or 5 foot, depending upon what I'm fishing for. Bring hooks. Make sure you have several hooks. Hooks that are small enough for pinfish. Hooks that are size for mangrove snappers. Hooks that you're going to be able to get into a snook bite, jack. So kind of have a variety of hooks. I personally like circle hooks. Now for years I've used J hooks. It's just the way I was raised. I mean, I was raised bass fishing, and it drilled into me about the setting of the hook. But I've realized over the years that, you know, the J hook is not always the most productive, and so I've been trying and using circle hooks, and my hookup ratio has been just phenomenal, especially when I'm live baiting for big fish like tarpon or snook or kingfish especially. You can just leave that bait out there with a loose drag, and it hooks itself almost every time in the corner of the mouth. So you want to make sure that you have the right tackle. Bring plenty of tackle and gear. And then I also want to encourage you to make sure you bring more than one rod, because when you do get into the bite, I guarantee you that they will break your line. Your leader will be frayed, and if you have another pole ready to go, you're going to be able to squeeze out maybe 2 more fish that you would otherwise miss. So bring a couple poles. Now, let me talk to you about live bait. I have had to learn how to throw a castanet again. I mean, as a kid I learned it, and then there was many years that I got away from it, but there's plenty of instructional videos out there that show you how to throw a castanet. But here's what you need to understand, that if you're going to be successful and you're going to have a productive day on the water, you need to start learning how to make sure that you catch live bait. Now, there's 2 ways of catching live bait. You got a sabiki rig, which I use a lot when I'm offshore. You drop down the sabiki rig. It usually comes with like 6 or 7 hooks, and they're tiny feathers, and they are amazing for catching threaded herring, and you can catch white bait, you can catch pilchards sometimes, blue runners, etc., and so on. And when you do use those, let me give you a point that I learned. Make sure you're using that D-hooker. You've seen it at the tackle shops, that little thing that has like it looks like a shepherd's hook. Those things are awesome, because when you touch your bait, when you do touch your bait, you're going to really cause that slime layer to go off of it, and it's just going to not give you the long life that you're looking for. So make sure you're using the D-hooker, and you're de-hooking your baits you catch on the sabiki rig straight into the live well or into your bait bucket. Second thing is obviously the castanet. The castanet, you're just going to have to learn how to throw it. I know sometimes it can be difficult, but that's going to really get you on the mullets and so many other kind of species of bait that's going to make you productive. Now, when you do get your bait, let me show you what I've done. So I have here, let me lift this up. Alright, so this is my live well. Now I've made this, and you can see on the side I have I have my pump, and these alligator clips, they hook up to this battery that I have right here. Kind of went overboard on the battery. I think that's a lawnmower battery, to be honest with you. But I went ahead and bought one that I could recharge, and I used the alligator clips to run it. This pump, it's been works really well for me. I don't know, let's see, what is this? A Tsunami T500. And it comes with a kit. You can buy it with the kit where it comes with the adapter, and basically it's just a tube. I'll open this up and I'll kind of show you what we got here. This is important to have, especially if you're going to be investing in live bait. Oh, I even got my net in here. Yeah, make sure that you do have a net. This one is rusted. Now in the bottom here you have the water. It's going to be sucked in from the bottom. You want to get as far down as you can. And then on as far up as you can go, you want to make sure that you have your water circulator. So this circulates the water. It takes it from here and it spews it out here. And this is kind of nice because you can adjust the pressure on how fast you want it to go. You know, you don't want to you don't want to stress out your bait by creating a whirlpool so strong that, you know, they can't keep up with it, but yet current is going to increase your bait drastically and keep them alive. In the bottom here, I also put a drain which leads out to this knob, and I can drain the water if I need to put more water in. I like to drain or add fresh water into this every hour or so, because a lot of times when you put bait in, especially a lot of bait, you're going to get that nitrogen buildup, nitrates in there, and it's just best to go ahead and the ammonia, and I think it's actually ammonia, and that's going to kill your fish. So make sure that you have the ability to empty out a little bit and put fresh water in. Hey guys, this thing, it really didn't cost me that much. I mean, I had the cooler. It was a mess, and the pump maybe cost me, I don't know, $18. The kit maybe 25 bucks. And then I just bought some alligator clips at Walmart, which were super cheap. And then the battery. I think the battery was the most expensive thing. The battery was maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 bucks. So what I like about the cooler is that you can put the lid on it, and it is it's insulated. So that's a plus. The only problem is that it's a little hard to carry. I need to come up with a system where with one hand I can, you know, create some kind of a carrying, and the battery, it's a little bit much. Now you can buy a much smaller 12 volt batteries, and you could possibly rig it so that it's on the side. Listen, with YouTube out there, you can do anything, right? I'm sure there's some guy that's already done it already. Now, I want to show you the trolling bait bucket. Now listen, this is old school, but I'm telling you what, I use this thing a lot, and I'll tell you the reason why. If I'm at a place where I can put this thing in the water, you're golden, because the water is going to be oxygenated, and you're not going to have a problem with ammonia buildup. So I have put finger mullet more than you could possibly get away with in this bucket, but as long as I kept it in the water, then I was golden. So this thing is light, it doesn't require a battery, but you got to be on the water, you got to be able to drop it down. Now on the jetty, it's kind of a problem. You know, if you've been out there on Jupiter Inlet or the jetty, you know that the waves are crashing. It's hard to get this bucket into the water. And that's the reason why I went with the bait well. It just gives me about 3 hours where I can keep my baits, you know, live. Actually longer. I've had baits in there all day pretty much, because the battery is, you know, more than enough power. As long as I'm changing the water out. But listen, it's golden, because when you do get in that bite, when you get into that magical moment and you've been out there, you know, you could have been out there fishing for, you know, all morning or all day, and then the tide changes, the wind changes, you got bait pushing in, and there's usually these pockets of time is what I'm trying to get to, where you want to make sure that you have fresh bait and you're ready to go, so when you get to that point, you can capitalize on it.